My sister slapped me in front of 200 people at her wedding because I wouldn't give her my penthouse. Turns out a judge was watching. At my sister's lavish wedding, my parents insisted that I give up my penthouse for their new family. Mom exclaimed, "Selfish children don't deserve success." Dad added, "Your sister's children need real homes." Sister scoffed, finally getting what I've always deserved. When I declined, she struck me harshly in front of 200 people. Everyone began laughing. I did not cry. I picked the revenge that would permanently silence them. The champagne flute trembled in my palm as I saw my sister Sabrina glide across the marble floor of the Ritz-Carlton's large ballroom, her custom Vera Wang gown trailing behind her like liquid silk. 200 people had arrived to see her fairy tale wedding to Derek, a brilliant investment banker she met only 8 months before. I couldn't help but notice the irony that she was marrying for money while wanting me. I'm Vivian, 32 years old, and I've worked my ass hard to be where I am now. While Sabrina was busy playing house with several lovers, in her 20s I was pulling all-nighters in law school and working 70-hour weeks at a top Manhattan firm. 5 years ago, I took the biggest risk of my life by establishing my own firm, focusing on business litigation. It paid off spectacularly. Last year, I concluded a settlement that allowed me to acquire a penthouse overlooking Central Park, which everyone now claimed belonged to them. Vivian, darling, you look absolutely radiant. My mother Diane approached with her typical phony smile, which she saved for when she wanted something. Her silver hair was precisely coiffed, and she wore a navy dress that likely cost more than most people's rent. We need to have a little family chat. My stomach sank. Family conversations in the Morrison household were never good news. Mom, it's Sabrina's wedding day. Can't whatever this is. Wait, actually, no. My father, Robert, appeared beside her, his expression harsh. At 58, Dad still commanded attention in his fitted tuxedo, but his eyes bore the unmistakable disappointment that had haunted me since boyhood. We've been discussing your living situation. My living situation. I sat down with my champagne and realized I needed both hands free. What about my living situation? Well, honey, Mom's voice took on that sickeningly lovely tone. You know how Sabrina and Derek are starting their family? They're going to need more space than that tiny apartment Derek has been renting. I blinked. They're not even pregnant yet, Mom, but they will be soon. Sabrina's voice echoed over the little circle as she joined us, her new husband's arm around her waist. At 28, she was certainly attractive, with auburn hair and green eyes, but her expression was calculated, and it made my skin crawl. We're planning to start trying right away. Congratulations, I murmured cautiously. I'm sure you'll find a lovely place to raise your family. We already have, Sabrina replied, her smile bright. We want your penthouse. The word struck me like a physical blow. Excuse me. Now, Vivian, before you get all defensive. Dad jumped in, his voice, taking on that patronizing tone he used when he thought he was being reasonable. Think about this logically. You're a single woman. You don't need all that space. Sabrina and Derek, on the other hand, are starting a family. They need room for children for their future. You want me to give up my home? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The home I worked for years to afford, not give up. Mom hastily corrected. Trade. You could take Derek's apartment. It's perfectly adequate for one person. A 600-foot studio in Queens, I asked frankly. You want me to trade my 3-bedroom penthouse on the Upper West Side for a studio apartment in Queens, Vivian? Don't be so dramatic, Sabrina urged. It's not like you even use all that space. What do you need 3 bedrooms for? You don't even have a boyfriend. The comment stung, just as she had intended. Sabrina had always been the ideal child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. They hailed her bold for dropping out of college to find herself. They referred to her career and relationship changes as exploring her options. When I graduated summa cum laude from law school, they were concerned that I had worked too hard. I need those bedrooms because it's my home. I responded, my voice rising slightly. I earned it, I paid for it, and I'm not giving it up. Vivian Elizabeth Morrison. Mom's voice became harsh. That is incredibly selfish. Family comes first. Always. Family, I laughed cruelly. Have any of you ever treated me like family? When I needed help preparing for the bar test, you said I was being antisocial. When I established my own business and struggled, you accused me of being careless. When I finally succeeded, you pretended it was an accident. That's not true, Dad said. However, his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? When was the last time any of you inquired about my life, career, and happiness? But as soon as I have anything you desire, I'm back with my family. Sabrina came forward, her face red with rage. You know what your problem is, Vivian. You've always been jealous of me. You can't stand that I'm getting married, that I'm going to have the family you'll never have. I'm not jealous of you, Sabrina. I'm disappointed in you. Disappointed. She laughed harshly. Are you disappointed in me? I'm the one getting married, and I'll be the one to give Mom and Dad grandkids. What have you done besides make money? I've built a life, I said gently. I've worked hard for everything I have. I've never asked any of you for anything. Well, now we're asking something of you, Dad stated firmly. Your sister needs that penthouse more than you do. It's time you did something for your family instead of just yourself. Robert's right, Mom said, raising her voice. Selfish children don't deserve success. You've had everything handed to you, and now you won't even help your own sister. The accusation was so ludicrous that I nearly laughed. Handed to me, I worked 3 jobs to pay for law school. I lived on ramen noodles for 2 years while building my practice. I've never asked you for a dime. Your sister's kids need real homes, Dad said loudly across the ballroom, causing several nearby visitors to turn and stare. Not some cramped apartment. They deserve better. They're not even conceived yet. I protested, but I knew I was losing this battle. My family was always brilliant at making me feel bad about my accomplishments. Sabrina moved closer, her voice low and nasty. You know what, Vivian? I'm done pretending to care about your feelings. I've always known I was the better daughter. I'm prettier. I'm more likable. I'm the one who makes Mom and Dad proud. And now I'm finally getting what I've always deserved. The words hung in the air between us, posing a challenge around us. Wedding guests began to gather, sensing drama. Some were openly staring now, their discussions dying, as they concentrated on our family argument. What do you always deserve? I said softly. And what exactly is that, Sabrina? Everything, she replied simply. The penthouse, the respect, the life you've been hoarding for yourself. I deserve it all, and I'm finally going to get it, over my dead body. The slap came so fast that I didn't see it coming. Sabrina's fingers hit my cheek with a piercing snap that rang across the ballroom. For a brief while, the sound appeared to stop. 200 guests fell silent, their discussion breaking in mid-sentence as they turned to watch the sight unfold in front of them. Then the laughter began. It started with a few scattered giggles from Sabrina's friends, who had always looked down on me for being too serious and focused on work. But it spread like wildfire among the audience. Guests who did not know me were laughing, pointing and muttering behind their hands. Did you see that? She actually slapped her. About time someone put Vivian in her place. I always knew she was stuck up. My cheek burned, but I did not cry. I would not offer them satisfaction. Instead, I stood there feeling the pressure of 200 pairs of eyes on me, listening to their laughing, whispered comments and judgment. Sabrina smiled triumphantly. Maybe now you'll start acting like a real sister. Mom and Dad stood behind her, not apologizing for their daughter's actions, nor protecting me. They merely watched, waiting to see if I'd ultimately give in to their demands. That's when I realized something significant. This wasn't only about the penthouse. This was about them keeping me in my place, reminding me that no matter how successful I was, or how hard I worked, I would always be the disappointment, the one who didn't count. But they had made one critical error. They had humiliated me in front of 200 witnesses, including some prominent figures from New York's legal and commercial circles. People who knew me, respected me, and witnessed what I was capable of. I reached into my bag and took out my phone. My hands remarkably still, despite the wrath running through my veins. Without speaking, I began typing. Vivian, what are you doing? Mom inquired uneasily. I ignored her and continued to type. People around us began to laugh less as they noticed I wasn't behaving as expected. I wasn't crying or running away in humiliation. I was doing something else, totally. Vivian put that away. Dad said, You're embarrassing yourself. No, I said, quietly kept typing. I'm not the one who should be embarrassed. Sabrina attempted to grab my phone, but I moved aside and clicked send just as her fingertips touched the screen. What did you do? She hissed. I looked up at her, my parents, and the multitude of guests who were still watching us with unmistakable interest. I chose the revenge that would silence you forever. Their confused expressions were nearly hilarious. They clearly expected me to either give in to their demands or burst out crying. They did not expect me to fight back. My phone buzzed with an answer followed by another, and then several more in fast succession. Vivian, what did you send? Mom's voice became shrill panic setting in. I gave the first genuine smile I'd felt all evening. I sent a message to my group chat. You know, the one with all my lawyer friends, the journalists I've worked with, the business contacts I've made over the years, the people who actually matter in the city. Sabrina's face turned white. What kind of message? Just a little update about tonight's events. How my family demanded I give up my penthouse to my sister and her new husband. How my mother screamed that selfish children don't deserve success. How my father said my sister's hypothetical children needed real homes more than I do. How my sister slapped me in front of 200 people because I wouldn't hand over my life's work. The ballroom had gone utterly silent. Even the string quartet had ceased performing. I also mentioned how everyone laughed when I was assaulted. I said, my voice clearly audible over the hush. How amusing they found it that a successful woman was being put in her place by her family. Vivian, you need to delete that right now. Dad warned, his voice dangerously low. I shrugged. Delete what? The truth. Too late anyway. It's already been shared. You know how social media works, Dad. Once something's out there, it's out there forever. My phone was now continuously vibrating with messages of sympathy, fury on my behalf, and pleas for additional information. The story was spreading faster than I had expected. You vindictive, Sabrina screamed, her voice wavering slightly. No, Sabrina, I'm just done being your doormat. Derek, who had been mute during the argument, eventually spoke up. Vivian, maybe we can work something out. We didn't mean for things to go this far. I stared at him with pity. You married into the wrong family, Derek. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. What do you mean? He inquired, his tone betraying genuine confusion. I mean your new wife and in-laws just made some very powerful enemies. Do you know who Judge Margaret Chen is? She was here tonight. She saw everything. She's already texted me expressing her disgust at your wife's behavior. Sabrina's face changed from white to green. Judge Chen was one of New York's most recognized judges, known for having no tolerance for entitled conduct. And David Rodriguez from The Times. He's been following me around all evening trying to get an interview about my latest case. He saw the whole thing. He's asking if I wanted to comment on how successful women are treated by their families. Vivian, stop. Mom urged, You're going to ruin Sabrina's wedding. Sabrina ruined her own wedding when she decided to assault me in front of 200 people. It was just a slap, Sabrina insisted. You're being dramatic. It was an assault, Sabrina, and it was witnessed by 200 people, including several lawyers, a judge, and apparently a reporter. You want to know what I deserve? I deserve not to be physically attacked by my own family. My telephone rang. I looked at the screen and smiled. Oh, this is interesting. It's Amanda Walsh from Walsh and Associates. You know, the law firm that handles high-profile reputation management cases. She's offering her services pro bono. Sabrina's face became drained of blood. In New York society, reputation management was synonymous with controversy control. And, if Amanda Walsh called it, meant the tale had already moved beyond my small circle. Vivian, please. Sabrina said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. I was just emotional. You're sorry, I chuckled, but it wasn't funny. You're sorry that there are consequences to your actions. You're sorry that you can't just take whatever you want from me without pushback, but you're not sorry for what you did. I am sorry, she insisted. I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone it was a mistake. Too late for that. The damage is done. And it was. I could see it on the faces of the people surrounding us. The laughter had stopped, completely replaced by uneasy whispers and pointed stars. People who had previously considered my humiliation humorous now looked at Sabrina with disgust. The social media posts had already gone viral. And, in New York's affluent circles, reputation meant everything. What do you want? Dad said calmly, defeat evident in his voice. I want you to leave me alone, I stated plainly. All of you. I want you to stop treating me like an ATM. Stop expecting me to sacrifice my happiness for Sabrina's convenience. And stop pretending that family means anything to you beyond what you can get from me. Vivian, we're still family, Mom murmured softly. No, we're not. Family doesn't demand you give up your home. Family doesn't scream at you in public. Family doesn't assault you at a wedding. Family supports each other, celebrates each other's successes, and treats each other with respect. You've never done any of those things for me. My phone vibrated again. This time it was an SMS from my assistant. Vivian, TMZ is calling. They want to know if you are the lawyer who was assaulted at the Ritz-Carlton wedding. What do I tell them? I held the phone up so that everyone could read the message. TMZ is calling. This is about to become a very public story. Sabrina started crying, her flawless makeup spilling down her cheeks. Vivian, please. This is my wedding day. Don't ruin it. I'm not ruining anything, Sabrina. I'm just refusing to be your victim anymore. What can we do? Durarik asked, desperate. How do we fix this? I looked at him, then at my parents, and last at my sister, who was sobbing in her wedding dress. You can't fix this, Derek. This is who they are. This is what they do. They take and take and take until there's nothing left. And when you finally say no, they attack you for it. The ballroom was beginning to empty now. Guests were making excuses and slipping away from what was obviously a family disaster. Sabrina's beautiful wedding was unraveling, and everyone wanted to isolate themselves from the chaos. The penthouse is mine, I said gently. I earned it. I paid for it, and I'm keeping it. If you want to live somewhere nice, Sabrina, get a job. Work for it like I did. I can't believe you're doing this, she muttered. I can't believe it took me this long. When I turned to leave, Dad grabbed my arm. Vivian, wait. We can work this out. Family counseling, mediation, whatever you want. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up to his face. Let go of me, Dad. He quickly released me, evidently aware of the consequences of physically restraining me in light of what had just occurred. There's nothing to work out, I informed them. You made your choice tonight. You chose Sabrina over me, just like you always have. You chose her convenience over my hard work. You chose her demands over my boundaries. And when I said no, you chose to watch her assault me rather than defend me. We didn't know she was going to hit you, Mom insisted. But you didn't stop her. You didn't apologize. You didn't even check if I was okay. You just stood there and let it happen. I began heading toward the exit, my heels clicking across the marble floor. Behind me, I could hear Sabrina's weeping mom's frantic murmurs and Dad's angry mumbling. But I did not glance back. At the door, I turned around one more time. The once grand ballroom now resembled the site of a calamity. Wedding attendees were separated into tiny groups, whispering and pointing. The bride cried in her destroyed makeup. The groom appeared stunned, and my parents were attempting to contain the damage that was already spiraling out of hand. You know what the funny thing is? I exclaimed, my voice echoing around the virtually empty room. I would have helped you if you'd asked nicely. If you'd come to me with respect, if you treated me like family instead of like a bank account, I would have helped you find a nice place to live. I might have even helped with the down payment. The hush that ensued was deafening. But you didn't ask for help. You demanded my home. You screamed at me, insulted me, and then physically attacked me when I said no. So now you get nothing. I walked out of the Ritz Carlton with my head held high, leaving behind the devastation of my sister's wedding and my family's reputation. The elevator tripped down seemed interminable. As the doors closed behind me, I could still hear the turmoil in the ballroom. Muffled voices crying and chairs scraping against marble as the remaining guests hurried to exit. My phone hadn't stopped vibrating since I wrote that message, and with each notification, I felt a combination of relief and dread. The lobby was thankfully quiet. The night manager, a distinguished gentleman in his 50s, approached me with concern on his face. Ms. Morrison, is everything all right? We heard there was some commotion upstairs. I paused, thinking that even the hotel workers knew about the incident. I'm fine, thank you. Just family drama. He nodded nicely, but I could see the interest in his eyes. By tomorrow, this story would have traveled across the hotel's staff gossip network and other luxury places across the city. In New York's aristocratic circles, scandals spread like wildfire. Outside, the crisp October air hit my face like a slap. Odd given that I had already been slapped once tonight. I remained on the sidewalk for a time, watching the traffic flow along Central Park South and attempting to understand what had just occurred. Part of me couldn't believe I'd accomplished it. The other part of me questioned why it had taken this long. My telephone rang. Riley, my dearest friend, was a prosecutor I met during my first year at the company. Vivan, what the hell is going on? I just saw your group message, and now there are photos all over Instagram. Did Sabrina really hit you? She did. I began walking towards the metro, needing to move and do something with the adrenaline still pouring through my veins. Holy, are you okay? Do you want me to come over? I'm fine, Jess. Actually, I'm better than fine. I think I'm finally free. Free. Free from pretending they're actually my family. Free from feeling guilty about my success. Free from walking on eggshells every time I'm around them. There was a pause at the other end. Vivian, this is going to get messy, right? Like really messy. I know. But I'm tired of being the one who always has to clean up their messes. Let them figure it out for once. What about your parents? They're going to be devastated. I paused, walking. Jess. They stood there and watched their daughter assault me in public. They demanded I give up my home for their golden child. They called me selfish for wanting to keep what I've worked for. When exactly am I supposed to start caring about their feelings? You're right, she replied gently. I'm sorry. I know how much family means to you. Family means everything to me, but they stopped being my family a long time ago. I was just too blind to see it. After hanging up with Riley, I chose to walk home rather than use the subway. I needed time to reflect, to comprehend what had just occurred, and what was likely to happen next. The 40-block stroll from Midtown to my Upper West Side condo would allow me that time. As I went, my phone continued to vibrate with messages. Some were from coworkers who had attended the wedding and expressed their shock and support.
My family
Others were from
treated
pals
me
who had
like
seen
a
the message circulate on
parasite,
social media.
a drain on their
A handful were from
resources,
journalists who had
a
somehow obtained
constant
my phone number and
disappointment
wanted quotes
until
on the
the
incident.
day they discovered I
Patricia
owned the
Winters,
very
the senior partner
company
at my
that
old
had
business, sent
just
the most
hired
startling
my
message. We had
impossibly
parted on good
spoiled
terms when I
older
left to start my own
sister.
practice,
For
but we rarely spoke
years,
anymore.
I had lived under
Vivin,
the
I only found out
shadow
about
of
this
their
tonight.
thinly
I want you to
veiled
know you have my full
contempt,
support.
a silent
What happened to
burden
you was
in their
terrible, and I applaud you for
seemingly
sticking up for
perfect
yourself.
lives.
Please call
Now
if you
the
have any
tables
questions.
had turned,
Reading
and
her
the
message.
irony was so potent
I felt
it
tears well up
almost
in my eyes for
tasted
the first time all
metallic.
evening.
Most
Not
families
tears of
harbor a
anguish or pain,
particular
but tears
ritual
of
that to
thanks.
an outsider
Here was someone
appears
who hardly knew my
utterly
family and
normal,
had no duty to
perhaps
help me.
even endearing.
Yet, she offered it
Yet
because it was the
from
proper thing to
within,
do. It made me
It
understand how mistaken
slowly,
my family had been about
insidiously
me.
devours your
They depicted
spirit.
me as a selfish person
In
who
my
only cared about
family,
money
this
and
ritual
achievement.
manifested as our
However,
weekly
the messages
Sunday
flooding my
dinner,
phone painted a different
a
narrative.
sacred
They
event
came from
where
people who
my
knew the real me,
parents
the person who
unfailably
mentored younger
transformed
associates,
my
did pro bono
life
work
into a
for victims of domestic
meticulous
violence, and
public
volunteered at legal
comparison
aid clinics
chart.
despite
By the
working 80-hour
time I
weeks.
navigated the
By the time
treacherous
I arrived at my
waters of
building,
middle
I had over
school,
200
I could
messages and missed
anticipate
calls.
the tenor of the
My doorman,
evening
Luis, stared at
long
me with
before the
alarm as I
first
walked into
bite
the
of
lobby.
food touched my
Miss Vivian, you
lips.
okay?
The
You
way
look like
my
you've had a tough
father
night. Luis had been
meticulously
working in my
stacked
building
the
for 15 years.
plates, the
He had seen
almost
me through law
aggressive
school, stress relationship
precision
breakups,
hinted at
employment
the
changes,
coming
and many late
judgment.
nights.
My
He knew me better
mother
than my family
hovering
did.
near the oven
I've had better
with
nights,
that
Louise,
tight,
but I think things are
almost
going to get better from here.
predatory smile
He smiled.
signaled she
That's
was
good to hear.
poised to
You deserve
begin
all the
her
happiness in the world. In the
performance.
elevator, I
My
finally allowed
older
myself to look
sister,
closely at my
always the
reflection
star,
in the mirrored
would
walls.
gracefully claim her
My cheek
seat
was still
at the
crimson
end
from
of the
Sabrina's hit.
table closest to
My
the
hair was somewhat
kitchen.
unkempt, and
This
my makeup was
spot, by
smudged, but my eyes
unspoken
were bright and
decree,
focused.
had become the
I
unofficial
resembled someone who had been through
spotlight, the
battle and
throne of
emerged
their golden
victorious.
child.
As I
My
entered my apartment, it
parents
seemed
would
like a
then
haven.
ceremoniously
The floor to
arrange her
ceiling windows provided a
certificates and
panoramic view of the city
trophies,
with
a
lights glittering
glittering
like
array of
stars.
achievements,
This was my
like
space,
carefully
my
chosen
accomplishment, my
props,
home,
in a
and no one was
play
going to
no
take it
one
away.
else in the room
I poured
had
myself a glass
ever
of wine
agreed
and
to
sat on my
join.
couch, finally
They had
allowing
read
myself to sift
every
through the incident related
accomplishment
social media
aloud,
posts.
their voices
Someone had
swelling
filmed
with
Sabrina, smacking
exaggerated
me, perhaps thinking
pride,
it was humorous at the
pausing
time, and
expectantly
put it to
for
Instagram.
reactions.
The video had
I,
already been
in
posted hundreds of
turn,
times,
would
and
focus
comments
with
ranged from
desperate
indignation to support.
intensity on dissecting
This is
my
disgusting.
food into
Who hit someone at a
progressively
wedding? That
smaller,
lawyer is my hero
almost
for refusing to back down.
microscopic
The sister is certainly
pieces,
entitled to
my
AF.
jaw aching,
Whether in a
while
family
a
or not, assault
familiar
is assault.
scorching burn
I can't believe that everyone was
ignited in
laughing.
my chest a
What is wrong with
fire of
people?
shame and
However, it wasn't
inadequacy
just
that
random
threatened
internet
to
users commenting.
consume me. There
I
was
recognized names
always
from
a
New York's legal
second, more
community, business heavyweights,
sinister.
and
There
even a
was
few
always
celebrities who
a
had reportedly
second,
watched
more
the tape.
sinister act
The
to their
narrative was taking on a life of its own,
performance.
reaching well beyond
This
Sabrina's
was when
wedding.
the spotlight,
The phone
with
rang
a
again.
cruel,
This time it
deliberate
was my assistant
sweep,
Jenna, who
swung
called from her personal
directly
phone.
onto me. It
Vivian,
typically began
I'm
with
so
my
sorry to bother
mother's
you
head
on a Saturday night,
tilting,
but I've been getting calls
just
all
so a
evening.
dramatic
The office
sigh
voicemail is full,
escaping
and
her
reporters keep
lips,
calling my personal line
heavy
asking for
with
statements. What
unspoken
kind of reporters?
disappointment. Then came
Everyone
the
local news page,
inevitable
6,
question,
TMZ,
delivered with
even
an air
CNN.
of profound
This story is
perplexity.
everywhere.
Why can't you
I
be
closed
more
my eyes,
like your
suddenly fatigued.
sister?
What are they
It
asking?
was posed
They wanted
as
to know
if
if you're
I had
pressing
simply
charges, if you're
misordered my
planning to sue, what your
personality
family
from some
relationship was like before
cosmic
this.
catalog.
Some are
But
asking
we
about
were
your law
still
practice
well
and your
within the
success story.
return window.
A few want to
The
know about your dating
absolute
life. Of
nadir of
course they
these
did.
evenings was
A
etched
successful,
into
single
my
lady being
memory.
attacked by her
I
married
had
sister was a
timidly
common theme in
attempted to
stories about
mention
women's
a
success
small
and family
project I
dynamics.
was absorbed in a few
Jenna,
lines of code
I
I'd
need you to
been
draft a statement. Keep it
painstakingly
simple and
writing
professional.
on an ancient
Something like,
desktop
Morrison is
computer
grateful for the outpouring of
relegated
support
to
she's
the
received.
basement.
She's
My
focusing on her
sister,
work and
ever
her
the
clients at this
queen of
time and won't be
casual
making any further
cruelty,
public comments about this
actually
private family
snorted
matter.
with laughter.
Should
She
I mention
rolled
anything
her
about pressing
eyes, a
charges?
gesture of
I
profound
paused. The
disdain,
fact was,
and
I hadn't even
declared,
considered filing
"Playing with
charges.
computers doesn't
Sabrina's
count
smack
as a
had been
real
intended to humiliate
accomplishment,
rather than
Belle."
cause
My
bodily hurt.
parents instantly and
However,
her
the
loyal
inquiry made me
audience
realize that I
joined
had
in her
possibilities I had
laughter,
not
a
considered. Don't
hollow,
mention charges either
obliging
way.
sound,
Let's
like
keep our options
people
open.
chuckling at a
After
joke
hanging
they
up with
hadn't
Jenna, I
quite
realized I was hungry.
grasped, but
I
felt
hadn't eaten anything at
compelled
the
to
wedding because I was
endorse.
apprehensive about the
My
impending family
father,
clash.
when it came to me
I ordered Thai
operating in
food and
two
settled in to
distinct,
properly explore the
equally
consequences of
damaging
tonight's
modes,
occurrences.
explosive
By late
or
that evening, the tale had
invisible,
gained
if
significant
I dared
popularity
to
on social
push
media.
back, even a
The
fraction,
Instagram video of the
perhaps,
slap
by
has been
quietly
published by many gossip
expressing
accounts,
pride in
resulting in
some
thousands of
minor
views
achievement
within
at
hours.
school. His temper would
More intriguing were
ignite.
the lengthy
He
articles
would
already being
slam his
published about the
hand onto
tragedy.
the table, The
A
plates
feminist blogger
rattling
wrote on how women are
violently, or
expected to
shove his
compromise their
chair back
success for
with a
families.
screech that pierced the
A family
air.
therapist wrote about
Then would
poisonous family
follow a
dynamics.
tirade
A
about
legal expert was discussing New
disrespect,
York's assault
about
statutes.
how he would not
My
tolerate
story had
being
grown beyond just
spoken
family
to
drama.
like that
It sparked
in
broader
his own
conversations about success,
house.
gender family expectations, and
Conversely,
standing up for
if I
oneself.
remained
Sabrina's Instagram
utterly
account, which had been
silent,
filled with wedding
eyes glued
photographs
to my
and jubilation
plate,
just
a
hours before,
strategy of
was now inundated with angry comments.
self-preservation I
People
perfected
called her
over the
entitled, abusive,
years.
and
He would
spoiled.
simply erase me
Her
for
wedding
years
hashtag number sign,
afterward.
Sabrina and Derek Forever,
He'd
was
stride
ironically used to
past me in
broadcast a
the
video of her
hallway
punching me.
as if I were a
I nearly
cumbersome
felt bad
coat
for her
rack
almost.
that merely happened to
Then I
possess the
remembered her triumphant
ability to
expression as she
breathe.
smacked me.
My
The way she
mother's
sneered
weapon
at
of
finally receiving what
choice
she
was
deserved,
more
and my
subtle,
sympathy fled.
more
My
insidious.
dinner
The
arrived,
long,
and as I ate the pad thai, I
disappointed
began receiving calls
sigh.
from unexpected
It was
sources.
a sigh
My
that
college roommate,
communicated
whom I had
more
not spoken with
profound
in years,
insult
contacted
and
me to express her support.
disapproval than any
A cousin on
harsh
my father's
words
side,
could
who had
ever
always
hope
been the
to
family's black sheep,
convey.
contacted
It
me to discuss her own
invariably led
experiences with
to her
mistreatment by
favorite
relatives.
rhetorical
Even
question:
my high school guidance
why
counselor,
can't
who had
you be
obviously seen
more
the
like
article
your
on Facebook,
sister?
called to express her
After
pride in
years
how
of
far I
this
had gone.
relentless
But the most
assault
meaningful
on
call
my
came from Judge
self-worth,
Margaret Chin,
I
who had attended
eventually
the wedding.
stopped even attempting to
Vivian,
answer.
I hope
I
you don't mind me
understood
calling.
it
I got
wasn't
your
a
number from the court
genuine
directory.
inquiry. It was
I wanted to
merely their
personally apologize for
ritualistic
what I
way
witnessed
of
tonight.
reminding me
Judge
with
Chin,
every
you don't need
breath
to
that I
apologize.
was
You didn't do anything
irrevocably
wrong.
the wrong daughter.
I should have
The
intervened.
only place that
I should have said
offered
something
even
when I
a
saw what was happening.
semblance of
Instead, I
solace,
just
a
stood there like
remote
everyone else.
haven,
You
was
were a
the
guest at a wedding,
basement.
not a
It
referee
wasn't one of
at a
those
family fight.
cozy finished basements
Perhaps,
with plush
but I've been thinking
couches
about it
and
all
a
evening,
gleaming big
and
screen
I
TV.
keep coming back to something.
Mine was a stark,
That wasn't just
almost
family drama,
brutal
Vivian. That
space,
was a pattern
cold
of abuse,
concrete
emotional abuse,
underfoot, a
financial
labyrinth
abuse,
of
and then
exposed
physical
pipes
abuse.
overhead, towering
I've seen it too many
stacks
times
of
in my courtroom.
dusty old
Her
boxes,
comments struck
and
me
in
like a
one
physical blow.
forgotten corner, a
I'd been so
beat-up
concentrated on the
desk with
slap
a
and the demands for
perpetually
my
creaky
penthouse
office
that I hadn't
chair
given much
I'd
thought to the wider
salvaged
picture.
from the curb
But she
one
was correct.
forgotten
This was more than
afternoon.
simply one awful night.
They had
This
banished
was
an
the
ancient
culmination of years of
computer
my
down
family
there
treating me like a
years
personal
prior,
ATM,
a
disregarding my
relic cast
accomplishments and
aside
making me feel
when
bad
they'd
about my
upgraded
success.
the living room
I never
model.
thought of it that
That
way.
clunky,
I said
outdated
abuse isn't always
machine
obvious,
in its
especially when
grimy
it's coming from the family.
solitude became my
We're conditioned to
entire
accept behavior
world.
from
I
relatives that
would
we'd never tolerate
descend
from
into
strangers.
that
But what I
subterranean
saw tonight is the
sanctuary,
financial
sometimes
demands,
for
the public
hours on
humiliation,
end,
the physical
teaching
violence.
myself the arcane
That's a textbook
language of
case of family
code
abuse.
from random
After I
online
hung up with Judge Chin, I sat
tutorials
in my
and
apartment for a
obscure
long time reflecting
forums.
on her words.
I typed
Had I actually been
furiously
abused by my
deleted
family, it seemed like too
mistakes
strong a
with
word.
a frustrated
They had never hit me
sigh
until tonight.
and tried again
They had never intimidated me
until
or
the
attempted to control my
intricate
daily life.
logic finally
However, they had
miraculously
consistently attacked
clicked
my
into
accomplishments, made me feel
place.
guilty about my
It
success,
sounds
and asked
overly
me to sacrifice
dramatic,
my happiness for Sabrina's
perhaps,
convenience.
but
They
that
treated me
cold,
like a bank
dusty
account, not a
basement
daughter and
was
sister.
the single
When
space
I
in the
eventually said no,
entire
they publicly
house
ridiculed
where
and
I
physically
wasn't
assaulted
being
me.
constantly
Maybe Judge
measured
Chin was
against my
correct.
sister's
Perhaps this
latest
was abuse,
glittering
but in a form I hadn't
accomplishment.
recognized.
It
The
was a
understanding was simultaneously
sanctuary
empowering
where
and
no
painful.
one sighed at me,
It felt
no
liberating
one
since it verified
asked
that I
with
had made the
thinly
correct decision
veiled
to end my relationship.
contempt why I wasn't
Heartbreaking
more
because it meant admitting that
impressive.
my family had never truly
By
loved
the
me.
time I
They
reached
just adored
college
what I could offer
age,
them.
my excursions
As the night
upstairs
progressed,
were
I found
rare,
myself feeling
brief
glad for Sabrina's
forays
slap.
made solely for the
It had been the wake up
purpose of
call I needed, the
sleep.
final straw that gave me the
Everyone,
strength
it
to
seemed,
stop enabling
assumed I
their
would
actions.
follow the prescribed
Without it,
script,
I could have
attend a
continued to be their doormat for
prestigious
years.
university,
By
earn a
2 a.m., I was
respectable
exhausted,
degree,
yet
and
surprisingly calm.
ultimately transform
I had
into
disabled
the
my phone
kind of
alerts to stop the
polished,
continual buzzing
impressive
and was
adult
getting ready for
my
bed when I
mother
heard
could
the building's
proudly
intercom.
parade
I
at
looked at the
every
camera monitor
social
and saw Sabrina
gathering.
standing outside,
For
still
a
in her bridal
fleeting
dress,
moment,
mascara
I
smeared
even
down her
tried to
cheeks.
play along
She looked up
to
at the camera
embody
and
their
said, "Please."
expectations.
I
I
wavered for a
enrolled in
second.
a computer science
She looked shattered
program
and desperate.
mostly because it felt like
Despite
the
everything, the sister I'd
closest
grown up with was standing
academic
outside my building screaming for
approximation
help
to the
in her
raw,
damaged wedding dress.
unfiltered passion I
Then I remembered her
discovered in
triumphant
that
expression after she had
basement,
hit me.
but sitting in
I
those
remembered her saying that she
vast,
deserved everything I had
impersonal
worked for.
lecture halls,
I remembered
listening
200
to
people laughing as I
professors
stood there
drone
ashamed and
on
alone.
in tiresome
I switched off
circles,
the
I
monitor
felt
and
an
went to bed.
oppressive sense of
The story
stagnation,
appeared on
as
page
if I
6
were
the next morning.
slowly, inexorably
Lawyer assaulted
drowning.
my sister
My
at Rit's wedding.
mind constantly
Read
drifted
the
to the
headline, which was
tangible
accompanied by a
act of
photograph
building
of Sabrina
something
smacking me.
real,
The
something
story
that
described the
existed
entire
beyond the
affair, from my family's
confines of
demands for my
grades,
penthouse to the
and the
assault in front of
Sisyphean
200 people.
struggle to impress a
By
revolving door
lunchtime,
of
it was trending on social
strangers
media.
who would
The
forget
hashtags
my
Wash Wedding
name
Assault
the
and
instant
DR Family Grieve
finals were
went
over.
viral, with thousands of
So
people
one
sharing
fateful
their own
Sunday
tales of entitled
dinner,
family
when
members
I was
and supporting my
19,
decision to
I
fight back.
committed the act that
That afternoon,
effectively
Sabrina's new
detonated
mother in law called
whatever
to cancel her
fragile
invitation to the
remnants
family
of my
Christmas celebration.
childhood still clung to
Derek's legal business
existence.
conducted an internal
I
investigation
waited with the
after many
nervous
clients voiced
tension
worry
that
about
made
his
my
involvement in the
hands
incident.
clammy until
Mom
my
and Dad's country
father
club
had
membership has
finished
been
his
quietly stopped awaiting
customary
review.
recitation of my
The vengeance I
sister's
chose was
latest
neither violent
litany of
nor criminal.
achievements,
It was just
and
the
my
truth
mother
enhanced by the
had
power of social
delivered her
media
usual
and the
cloying
relationships I had spent
speech
years
about
cultivating.
being so blessed.
Sometimes the most devastating
Then,
weapon is simply
my
showing
voice
others who someone truly
surprisingly
is.
steady, I
Sabrina called
announced
me a
my
week later, crying
intention to
and pleading
drop
with me
out
to
of
help them control the damage.
college, and with two
She was sacked
brilliant
from her work at a boutique
individuals
public
I had
relations agency
connected with
when clients
through an
began canceling
online
their
forum
contracts. Derek
launch,
was about
a
to undergo a
software
professional ethics
company.
assessment.
I
Their
probably
honeymoon
should
was
have
cut short when
prefaced
photographers
it
began
with
following
a
them.
softer, more
Vivian, please,
diplomatic
she sobbed into her phone.
introduction.
I'm
But
sorry. I'm so
subtlety,
sorry.
I've
I
long
never meant for
since
this to happen.
realized,
You
has
meant to
never been
humiliate
my
me.
particular
I
talent.
answered gently.
My
You meant
father's
to force me to give up my home.
transformation from
You meant to
feigned
put me in my
calm
place
to
in front of 200
volcanic
people.
fury
The
occurred
only
in
thing you didn't mean was
approximately
to face
3
consequences for it.
seconds flat.
I'll do
He
anything.
slammed his
I'll apologize
fist onto
publicly.
the table
I'll
with
tell everyone
such
I was wrong.
force that a
Sabrina, stop.
wine glass teetering
I was sitting in my
precariously
penthouse,
toppled
admiring the view of
over
Central Park
and
that I had fought
shattered
so
its
hard for.
crystalline
You
fragments,
can't apologize your way
scattering
out of this.
across the
You
polished
can't take back what you
floor
did, and you
like
can't force me to
tiny
forgive you just
shards
because
of
you're
my
finally facing
broken
consequences.
future.
But
Then his
we're
face
family, she
mottled
muttered.
with rage.
Family
He
doesn't assault
launched
each other,
into a
Sabrina.
furious
Family doesn't demand
tirade
sacrifices
about
they're not
how
willing
I
to make
was
themselves.
throwing my
Family
life
doesn't laugh when
away,
one of their own is
how
humiliated.
only
I
irresponsible
know I
people
messed
quit
up, but please,
college,
help me
and
fix this.
how
I
no
can't
one
fix this
under
for you.
his roof
This is
was
something
going
you
to
have to live
act
with.
like a lazy
She
failure
hung up
on his
crying, and I never
dime.
heard from her again.
My mother,
6
true
months
to
later,
form,
Sabrina and Derek got divorced.
immediately dissolved
The stress
into
of the incident,
dramatic
along with the
tears,
financial
as
strain
if
of
I
both
had
losing their
just
jobs,
announced
had
my
ended their marriage before
intention
it had
to
begun.
join some
Sabrina
fringe
returned to
desert
live with our parents,
cult.
who were experiencing
She
their own social
sobbed,
exile.
repeating over and
Dad's business
over
struggled
that she
as
did
customers
not
distanced
raise a
themselves from the
daughter
family,
to
which had
become
become
some
associated with
dropout
entitlement and
embarrassment.
selfishness.
Her voice thick
Meanwhile,
with
my practice
anguish,
flourished.
demanding if I
The
had
attention, while
any
initially unsettling,
idea
eventually
what
worked in my
people
favor.
would say.
I became known as the
My
lawyer who
sister,
refused to be intimidated
meanwhile, leaned
and stuck up for herself,
nonchalantly
even if it
against
meant
the
standing alone.
kitchen doorway, a
New
small,
clients contacted me
satisfied
particularly
smile
because they had
playing
heard
on her
about my
lips,
refusal to back down.
observing the unfolding
I never got
scene
my
like a
family back. But then I
spectator
realized I
at a
hadn't truly
play
had
she
them to
had
begin with.
seen countless
I had a
times
group of people who
before,
regarded
yet
me as a
still
resource to be used
utterly
rather than a
adored.
person to be
She
appreciated.
muttered just loud enough
Naturally,
for
I
me to
retained
hear
ownership of the
something about
penthouse. I
how,
eventually turned
of
one of the
course,
extra
this
bedrooms
was
into a home
happening
office and the
because
other
Belle
into a guest
never
room
could
for my closest
finish
friends.
anything she
The
started.
space Sabrina had
That
stated I didn't
casual,
need was filled
dismissive
by the
comment
relationships I
delivered
formed with people
with
who
genuine,
respected me for who I
undisguised
was
delight
rather
stung
than what I could
almost
provide
more
them.
than my father's
Sometimes I
raw
wonder if I could have
fury.
handled things
After
differently,
the initial
if there was a way to keep
screaming
my boundaries
abated, my
while not hurting my
father
family.
seamlessly
But
transitioned
then I
to his
remembered the
other
sound of that
favorite
slap booming
weapon,
throughout the ballroom,
silence.
the
For
laughing of
days
200
he
people,
moved through the
and Sabrina's
house like
triumphant
a
expression when
ghost,
she thought she
his
had won.
gaze never meeting
I
mine,
chose the
my
revenge
name
that
never
would permanently
passing
silence them.
his lips.
And it
It
worked.
was as if I were
They never asked me
simply
for
air,
anything
a
else.
necessary
Even though it was
element.
unexpected,
He
the
was
silence was
forced to
just what I had hoped
breathe,
for. In
the
the end, I
one who
realized that
utterly
sometimes the best
refused to
revenge isn't getting back at
acknowledge.
someone.
He knocked on my
Sometimes it is
basement
simply refusing
door
to let them get
only
away with it.
once the sound sound a hollow
Sometimes it is
thud
standing
to
up and saying,
deliver
"No, you
his
don't get to
cold
treat me like this
decree,
anymore."
If I wanted
And
to
sometimes that's
act
enough to shift
grown and
everything.
make my